Hi there, welcome to Seasons Change. My name is Luann. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 very basic and very simple homemade seasoning mixes. Series that's called the Prep Your Pantry Monthly Challenge, where I put out a video on the first of every month giving different challenge items for that month. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll leave a link up above so that you can check that out after this video. But in this month's challenge, one of the items that were included is spices. So I thought this would be a very good time to go ahead and make this video on 3 basic homemade seasoning mixes. Now the first one that I'm going to share with you is my homemade taco seasoning. So let's go ahead and get started on that one. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just go down the line and give you the list of the ingredients. As you can see, these are different brands of spices. It really doesn't matter which brand you use, just use what you're used to. But also keep in mind, the better the spices, the better the outcome, but that's with any recipe. All right, so let's start down here on the end. The first ingredient I have here is chili powder. Next, we have ground cumin, paprika, oregano, and salt. These 5 ingredients is all that's needed to make a homemade taco seasoning without all of the preservatives and anti-caking chemicals and all of those additives that they add, which is a great benefit to making these from scratch. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this one bowl that contains 2 tablespoons of chili powder. This can be the dark chili powder, any kind of chili powder that you prefer using in most of your recipes. Next, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. So I'm just going to dump that right into this bowl. Next up is the paprika. I have a regular paprika and a smoked paprika, just to show you that you can do half and half, or you can use either or, again, totally up to you. But you're going to add 2 teaspoons of paprika. The third ingredient that we're going to add is dried oregano. Now, if you grow your own oregano, that'll work perfectly in this. And that's just the 1 teaspoon. And then finally, we're going to add half a teaspoon of salt, just your regular table salt. So there it is with all of our ingredients in there. We're just going to mix these together now. Once you have them combined fairly well, the next thing that you're going to need is a little funnel and whatever type of container that you want to put it in. What I do is I just save all of my old spice bottles, and I have a couple of examples here for you. This is one that I got from Aldi's, my cayenne pepper, and here's some thyme from H-E-B if you're familiar with H-E-B. But I love these glass spice jars, so anytime that I use up one, I just run it through my dishwasher, and now I have an extra bottle for my homemade spices. And this is about the amount that I keep on hand. That way I can keep it fresh. I don't do these in huge bulk amounts unless I'm going to be giving it away as gifts or something like that. So next, we're just going to simply put in the funnel and dump this into our jar. Okay, now that we get that in there, I'm just going to put a lid on it, and I'll label my glass jar with a Sharpie, and it fits perfectly in my spice drawer. This recipe is not going to fill your spice bottle all the way to the top, but if you double it, possibly triple it, that should get you to the top. But I really don't like to do any more than this. That way I can keep it fresh all the time. And taco seasoning is not something that I use every day, but I do use it at least once a week. So I usually keep about a double batch. The main thing is to make sure that you have plenty of your ingredients on backup. Now when it comes time to use your taco seasoning, you're going to use it the same way that you would the store-bought mix, and it's going to take 2 tablespoons per 1 pound of meat. That's going to do it for the taco seasoning. So now let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the blackening seasoning. Okay, so next up is going to be the blackening seasoning. My two favorite ways to use this seasoning is on top of broiled salmon or on top of steaks. But I'm sure you can find 1,000,001 other ways to use it. Now let's start with the ingredients. And there are only 4 basic ingredients to this recipe. The first one is the cumin again. And then we have your favorite Cajun seasoning. And then again, the chili powder. And this time, instead of salt, we have just your regular ground black pepper. Along with that, you're going to need your funnel and a container to put it in. So to start with, again, I'm just going to add them all into this first container, which is filled with half a teaspoon of cumin. To the half a teaspoon of cumin, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of your favorite Cajun spice. To the cumin and the Cajun spice, we're going to be adding 2 tablespoons of chili powder. And then finally, we're just going to add 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And that's all there is to this recipe. So now I'm just going to mix all that together. Okay, that's mixed pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and take this container with my funnel, and again, we're just going to dump that right down in there, trying not to make too big of a mess. Before we go any further, I wanted to point out to you that this recipe is going to make exactly 2 tablespoons of mix. And I think it's important to point that out because if you decide to triple or quadruple the recipe to fill up your spice jar, you're going to be wondering how much to use when it comes time to put it on your salmon or your steak. So I'm just going to put this right back into the jar. And when it comes time to use this, all you'll do is take the 2 tablespoons of mix and add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to it. Mix it up well, and then I like to use one of these basting brushes to brush it very thickly on top. And that's all there is to this recipe. So now let's move on to the third and final seasoning mix, and that's going to be a barbecue rub. Okay, and now it's time for the final homemade seasoning, and that's going to be the barbecue rub. The first ingredient that's going to go into this is going to be brown sugar. Next is chili powder, garlic, salt, and optional is cayenne pepper. Now the mix is going to be a 1/2 cup, and I'm actually going to get a bigger bowl this time. You're going to add a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of the garlic powder, 1½ teaspoons of salt, and then if you want to spice it up just a little bit, I add 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now we're just going to mix all of that together like we did the others. And this is what it's going to look like. Okay, once you get that mixed up, of course, just like all of the others, you're going to have whatever vessel that you want to put it in with your funnel. And but before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you real quickly how to use this. Now you can make up as much of this as you want. As you can see, it's going to make about 3/4 cup of mix. Now the only way that I've really used my rub is on ribs, but I'm sure you could use it on chicken or anything else that you're wanting to add a rub to. When it's time to use this, you're going to get liquid smoke and add 2 teaspoons of liquid smoke to your mix. Okay, once you do that and you get it mixed very well, you're just going to rub it right onto the meat and get it on there really good, and then wrap it in foil and let it sit for at least 20 to 30 minutes before you cook. When it comes time to cook, you're going to open up the foil and put on your favorite barbecue sauce, and then cook your ribs or whatever you're barbecuing the way that you normally would. So this is just the rub. It's very important to add this liquid smoke to it. It is the magic in the mix, but it turns out very well. It amazes me how just standing here, it already smells like barbecue. So here it is again, just a simple brown sugar, chili powder, garlic, salt, and then the optional cayenne. And that's it. Rub it on with your 2 teaspoons of liquid smoke, add your favorite barbecue sauce, and you're good to go. These are 3 of my favorite homemade seasoning mixes, and I hope that you get a chance to try at least one of them, if not all 3. If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And if you have a favorite mix that you'd like to share with the rest of us, of course you can share that recipe as well. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. See you next time. Bye.